Hi everyone, it's Paula from Pola Quilting. Welcome back to the next tutorial. So today I'm going to be taking care of this. Well, probably not all of this because it's too much, but I will show you the way how you can use up some of those strips, buttonholes and the button strips from the shirts. If you've been using some button-up shirts from charity shop or even from your own wardrobes, whilst you're cutting up the shirt you have those bits and pieces which do not necessarily go into the main quilt or whatever project you do, but you have them. Same with the pockets, you've got those, not necessarily they're going into the quilt. So I will show you how you can use them up in this project. What are we going to be making today are the cushion covers, and if you're using a lot of those shirt fabrics for your quilt, that will be nice addition to the quilt itself, or you may have just some leftovers like I do, and you can make it for yourself, or that will make a nice set. So I normally use a fleece as a batting for my projects because once it's cheap to it's just already available, and it's nice and light, but it gives the warmth as well when needed. So I use that. I went through my scrap box, I pull up some of the strips, I had the bits and pieces, and I kind of Frankenstein it together. If you do not know how to do it, I've got a video about it and I will link it in the description below. The same method will work well for any pieces of the batting you have left. So I've cut those ones already to about 21-22 inches, more or less square. I will be squaring it up to the 20 inches later for the actual cushion cover. So you always leave yourself a little bit of space to work with. Now just information about those things. They will bow once you start sewing them on. They kind of, because how they are made, and because I left some of that fabric here, you can see they are not exactly straight. They do bow a little bit. It is what it is, don't worry. I've made few of those cushion covers already. Once you square it up and you put the bag, you put the pillow inside, you won't even notice. So don't worry about it when you're sewing it. I mean, you try as much as you can to kind of have it straight, but if it doesn't go straight, don't worry about it. Second thing, I always cut those strips out of the shirts a little bit wider here. You can see I left some fabric on the side, but if you haven't, that's fine too. We can still use those strips. I've got some here. The only thing I would say is, if you have strips like this without any fabric on the side, use your zipper foot on the machine, because I mean with this strip where there are buttonholes it's not so difficult, but when you have a strip like this with the buttons itself, if you want to sew that, it will be difficult with the normal foot. But it will be quite easy with the zipper foot, because the foot will be on this side and you can still nicely stitch the strip. So that's my tip to how to make it nice and easy. Now for the side, for the starting point, if you have a piece with a little bit of fabric, use that. And if you don't have a, you cut them quite close and you don't have that bit of the fabric, add some strip first. And why is that? Is because, like I said, we will be squaring it up, and this is going to be that allowance for us to cut away. It's not going to look great if we're gonna kind of lose, or if we're gonna have to cut on the double fabric, because that's where our 20-inch or whatever size you're cutting fall in. So start from the piece of fabric if you have not had it with the strip itself. So you just put 2.5-inch strip, maybe you have cut them that way. So that's how we're going to start. Now a lot of those shirts will have buttons on the other side, so just be careful not to kind of sew over them. Let me see if there's anything here like that. No, I must have cut them out before. But if you do have it, just remove those buttons first. you know, the one underneath. So you sometimes they're coming at the top of the shirt as well, so just trim it. You don't want to kind of stumble on it when you're sewing. And you may like to, you know, iron them out a little bit, those strips, and do some auditioning just to see how it will look, so you kind of you can follow some sort of pattern, or however, whatever colors you want. That's obviously up to you. So the first strip I'm putting this way, so like I said, I've got that allowance for the cutting it later, but the next strip I will put other way around, and then I will be adding the next strip on top of that a little bit of fabric I've got left. Again, if you don't have the fabric, obviously it will not matter, you will just butt the strips next to each other as close as you can, and then you just stitch where you're stitching. Obviously you want to stitch here on the edge of that side, but where you stitch here is not so relevant, again, because there's a lot, you know, however you do it will be fine. But if you have that strip only, then obviously you want to stitch on both sides of the strip. Okay, let me do quick auditioning what I would like to have on this cushion, and then I will iron those strips just to make it easier to sew, and I will show you how it looks at the sewing machine. So that's the cushion number 1, and then cushion number 2 we'll work out somehow how we can use those pockets as well, because I've got fairly few and it's about time to get them used up. So that will be the second part of the video. Okay, so I finished auditioning the fabrics for this cushion cover, so I will take it to the iron now and kind of make it nice and straight. On the end of here, you want to make sure you leave yourself another batch of the allowance, and if you don't have a wide enough bit of the strip with the buttonholes or buttons, just add again a 2.5-inch strip here, just to make sure you have space to maneuver. Now if you haven't maybe noticed, I was alternating the buttonhole strips with the button strips, just to make it a little bit, you know, more interesting. But you might as well have all the buttons together and all the holes together, you know, it's up to you how you like to design it. Okay, let me take it to the iron now. I will remove that batch from here as well to have a space, and we'll get to the sewing to start putting it together. So I ironed all my strips, and I found the one which got the most of the fabric, which is where I want to start from. And to set myself for the best result with that, you know, the bowing thingy, I would just draw a line and I will try align that strip when I sew it, the first one, with the line I will draw. So this is where I want to start more or less with this strip, and I would like to be as straight as possible with it. So I've got a marking pen here for the fabric, but you could use, you know, normal pen, it will be inside anyway. So I draw a straight line, and when I start sewing I would keep to that line as much as possible, but like I've mentioned before, it really doesn't matter, you won't see it so much anyway. Okay, now I've got my zipper foot here, and this zipper is good because obviously I can have it attached on right or left side depending where I need to be as close as possible to the fabric, and as we go along we might need to swap it. So for now, because here it really doesn't matter with that first strip, especially that it has no buttons on it, I will just put it on, you know, one side. Okay, just check I'm not hitting with the needle, which is fine. Just move it slightly. Okay, so let me just move them aside. You know, you may like to pin it if you want, that it will kind of shift as you go along, so just pin that first one, because that will kind of be your guide for any next strip as well. spin it in a few places against that line. Okay, so usually those strips, whether it's a button strip or buttonhole strip, they are stitched already somewhere. So you can use that as your guide where you want to stitch, or just do make your own line. Again, depending on the thread you're using, you might add to the design as well. So that's another thing you can work with. Okay, so I stitched the first line, and it bowed a little bit already. It's just going to happen. I went through, with the line straight, but it's the nature of this part of the shirt that it will bow a little bit. So like I said, don't worry about it at all. So what I want to do now is anchor the other side of the strip, though I know I will be cutting somewhere here. I don't want to shift it while I'm working on the other side. So this shirt is striped, so I just use any of those stripes to kind of follow and stitch it straight. Okay, first done. So I want to alternate buttons with holes. So the next one will be button, and then you can notice I've swapped around where that piece of fabric will face now. So it will be faced that way, and I'll be kind of adding the next strip, overlapping a little bit the previous one. But obviously if you don't have that piece of fabric, again, it will not matter. You just put the one you like next. Now where the buttons fall in at the moment, don't worry about it. We will take care of it later when we finish sewing. Just sew the strips next to each other. You may like to overlap a little bit, but because this one is already kind of quite thick, I'm just trying to go as close as possible. Now, because of the buttons are on this side, I want to move my zip foot to the other side so I can sew on this side quite close, but without hitting the buttons. So that's why this one is quite useful for those projects. They are not expensive. If you don't have one, you can buy generic one, for a couple of pounds on eBay or Amazon or at your local store. So, but usually the machines do come with those as a standard. So just check your boxes with the fit you receive with your machine. And as I'm sewing here now, I'm pushing that fabric a little bit, towards that one to make sure I don't have a gap there, and I'm sewing very close to the edge. If you don't have any batting or you don't have any, fleece from the row, use old blanket to do those. That's the opportunity to recycle some of those blankets you may not necessarily like anymore because they kind of lost a little bit the color or the shape, but they will be great for this project. Okay, so the next one is the buttonhole now, and I'm not going to be stitching this strip on the other side because, like I said, the next one will overlap and kind of cut it. If I didn't have this piece of fabric, yes, I would have now moved the foot to the other side and gone on the other side of the strip to catch that fabric. So the buttons now, buttonholes. How much I overlap, it depends whether I like the fabric more or less. Again, your design, you decide how close you want to have it, how much visible you want to have that fabric. So I was just trying to put this one in, but then that will not leave me a lot of fabric sticking out, so I think I will put this one against here when I get to that fabric, so then I can use still here to overlap next one. So let's pick a different one. Okay, so this button strip got quite rugged edge, and I would normally not use it in my project because obviously I've got plenty of other strips, but I just wanted to show you how you can go about it if you don't have enough and you want to use particular one because of the color or whatever. So I've got this strip here sewn with the buttonholes, and usually there's a little bit of allowance here, like you can, like a little small flap. So what I will try to do is tuck in the rugged edge under that flap, and then kind of stitch through all of those layers to catch that blue one. And that way I will have a secure edge of the blue one, and it will look nice. Okay. So with this one I'll probably go very slowly just to make sure I can adjust the fabric as I go, and I'm going to very close to the edge of that other one color. Okay, so I finished that side, so now I have to go on the other side of the same strip, because obviously I won't be putting on top of this one, the blue one, anything else, so I need to secure the other side as well. So I'm just moving my foot to the other side, and I can easily just quickly whiz it through. Okay, I came off a little bit here, kind of the foot went off from the edge, so I'll just go in this piece again. Okay, I will tidy up the threads later. So I can now add the next piece, and because there's quite a lot of that purple fabric still sticking out, I can either put it obviously next to, just next to the blue one, or I can leave a little bit of that purple sticking out as well. Again, your choice how you want to design it. Okay, so I will carry on adding my strips, and I will finish on the left side with, again, with whatever it will be, either buttons or buttonholes, but with a bigger piece attached, so I can then square it up. So let me crack on, and I will show you when it's ready to be squared up how to prepare that bit, just to make sure we don't stumble across any issues. Okay, so I finished sewing on the strips, and it's time to square it up. Now somebody did ask me about how is it, you know, how good is it to kind of to lie down on it. Obviously with the buttons you do not necessarily want to put a face on it, but for the cushions I have in my own house, I just made the back of the cushions quite nice and soft, so you know, with the plain fabric, so if somebody wants to lie down on it, they just need to turn it around and they can still use it. If you feel like you would like to have it on this side as something you can lie down on, then just use the strips with the buttonholes instead of the buttons, and that will work too. Okay, so we need to square it up. So if I start from this side, just more or less I will stand where I know the batting is still there. I need, you know, one fairly straight edge to start from, and then we will be using the other ones. Okay, so I'm trying to square it up, and I can see that I'm getting very close to at least those two buttons here. So what I will do, I will use the seam ripper, and I will gently remove those buttons, obviously not to damage the fabric. So that's the one, and then this one needs to go too. Obviously I don't want to damage my rotary cutter when I'm going to be squaring it up, and also later when you're sewing the cushion back to it, you don't want to, you know, have a problem with the stitching and, you know, with the needle and things like that. So let's just sort it out now. Here you go. Okay, so now I'm ready to square it up. I'm just using lines on my mat to kind of do some sort of lines, but you know, that first line, like I said, the first cut will be a guide for all the other cuts, so I'm not so worried. Plus it's not the, you know, quilt block, it's a little bit unstraight, it's not a problem either. Okay, so that's the first cut. Now I want to measure 20 inches. 20 inches on my mat is 50 centimeters. So I'll just scoot it to the left where I've got the 0. And then I will do my 50 centimeters on this side. Again, I've got some buttons here, but I'll be able to square it up. And there's no buttons on this side where I would have a problem later with perhaps with the stitching. So that's fine. Then turn it this side. So at the moment it's 54 centimeters and I need to make it to 50. So if I take about 2 centimeters from this side and 2 from this side, that will be okay. So for the cushion cover of 20 inches, I am cutting that front to 20 inches. I always make my cushion covers a little bit smaller, so the pillow you put inside will look a bit plumpier. Otherwise, sometimes the cushion covers are too big and they kind of make it a little bit too loose. But that's, you know, it depends what cushions you've got. If your cushions are very plumpy, make sure you add a little bit extra all around, and then when you sew them, your stitching line will be on the 20 inches or whatever size of the cushion cover you've got. And then the other side. Okay, so my panel is squared up, and that will be ready now to add the back. Now, because, you know, when you cut that bit here, or when I cut this bit here, that stitching I had here, I actually cut it off. So this one is quite open and this one is quite open. What I normally do, I kind of go around it with the very small zigzags just to secure the edges before I add the other side of the cushion. But you know, if you kind of stitched it here and that stitch line, you know, left here and it's not big flap there, then you don't have to. So that's one of the cushion covers. So before I put the back of it, let's work on the second one. So that's my fleece, and now I need to figure out how I want to add those pockets. Okay, let's bring that bucket here, the big bucket. So, depend on who is going to be using those pillows, and how you prepared your pockets in the first place. You may like to stitch the pockets in the way that you can still use them. Now, I've got two, well, not small children. Well, one will be 6 and one will be 8 in September. So, if I leave those pockets, you know, open so they can use them, I'm going to be always searching for something in those pockets, so that's something I do not want to do. So I might decide to stitch them closed and maybe just leave 1 or 2 pockets somewhere. If I find something bigger I can use for the remote control, then I could use that as well. Something deeper. Our control, you know, is not very big, but I would like to kind of, maybe this one, that would be actually quite nice. So I might incorporate this one as a pocket for the remote, and the rest I can really just sew closed. Now, if I had known that that's how I want to use those pockets, I could have, when I was cutting them out, leave enough fabric to actually square them up to a certain block size, and then obviously stitch them as a normal, you know, 9 patch or 16 patch or whatever the size you would need to have a you know, to cover it up, depend on the block. So if you have not cut your shirts yet, or you haven't bought any to cut, and you would like to do something like this, just keep that in mind. Just take you know, make a decision what size of the cushion you've got, what size of the blocks you would like to have, and when you're cutting around, just cut them to that size, and you will have nice pillow as well, and you don't have to worry about, you know, closing the tops of those pockets. So I've got the, you know, mix here. Some of them have been cut with extra fabric around, some haven't, so I probably go, like I said, I will close off most of those pockets and I just leave maybe 1 or 2 open, one for the remote and one maybe for something else. Okay, I think I should have enough on this, in this pile of the pockets. Let's bring maybe one more, one green one, that's fine, that should be enough. If not, well, I've got plenty still. Okay, so this one will be my remote control one, so I will leave it aside for now, so I don't kind of mess it up. So I think I will go from the bottom, and for those which are kind of cut quite close to the fabric, I could do like an overlap here, or maybe I should actually go from the top, and then I will be able to kind of secure the, let's see, I think what I will need to do is actually maybe prepare those pockets first, just turn the fabric inside and just stitch around. Even if I close the pocket by doing that, if the, you know, cut is too close, that's fine. I just don't want those raw edges sticking out, and perhaps some of those which are close to cut too close, I might not need, you know, be able to use it, but that's fine. Like I said, I've got plenty to choose from. So I think that's what I will do. I don't need to have a lot of allowance around, probably like, you know, ½ an inch or so. Let me try on one and we'll see how it will look when I finish. It probably will be good to kind of iron it first in. It will help to keep the edges in while you sewing, but I just want to test this one, so I will just have a look how it goes. So basically I am going under the pocket itself with the fabric edge. And almost going on the same stitch, if I can, of the pocket itself. So yes, I think that will be what I need. That's how I need to secure them. Then there's nothing, you know, sticking out with the raw edge. Alright, so let me crack on with those pockets to secure them the same way. And I will come back with the recording when I've got them ready to put to design on the batting. Okay, so I finish going around my pockets, and as I was trying to design how I want those things to look like, I just got thinking that I'm just making that too complicated for myself here. So 2 things I wanted to say on that occasion. If you have seen my tutorial about how to cut up your shirt to repurpose the fabric, you know I'm keeping the back of the shirts to kind of use as you would use the fat quarters, because it's a nice big piece. So instead of like worrying if I'm going to, you know, cover all the space on this batting, what I will do first, I will choose one of my shirt part quarters, and I will use it as my background. I just need to make sure that it will be that 20 by 20 inches. Let me just quickly check this size. So yeah, it definitely goes 20 this way, and then can I cut 20 inches from here? No, 17. Okay, I need something else. Okay, so this looks like was like maybe triple XL shirt. So it's a big enough piece of the back to cover the whole space. So it's definitely more than 20 by 20 inches. So the plan is that I will quickly quilt it slightly, literally just to make sure that it doesn't move too much. And then, instead of worrying, like I said, about am I going to cover the fabric, I can now just put those pockets wherever I wish to, however I want to. Oh, this is the same one, so probably not that one. That will be my remote control one. So I can just, you know, put them wherever, and they will be looking good, and then I will just sew around as I did when I was framing them. So it's so much easier. And I have contacted my local charity, which has a farm, small farm, where the kids can go and kind of have a little bit play with the different type of animals, and they are run as a charity. So I thought if I make some items for them for sew from all of those scraps I've got from the pockets and the strips, you know, I will just donate it to them. So what I will be making for them will be subjects for another tutorial, but that way I can do it fairly quickly. The other thing I was thinking to let you know, and I've done it before, is if you have fairly big shirt, again like maybe XXL size or something like that, you can use this front as is to make a backing of your cushion. So that means you don't have to do anything extra work, just cut it to 20 by 20 inches and use that as a backing. Now I've like I said, I've done few of those cushions like that, and they work perfectly fine, providing that you don't have children like mine, because they will just, you know, whilst they're playing, they will take all the covers out of my cushion. So I've stopped using those cushion covers for now with those, because it's just too easy for them to unbutton, and I use, you know, the one like just envelope style instead for now. Hopefully when they get a little bit bigger, I can start using the other ones again. But you know, if you don't have a children like mine, this is big piece here, big shirt, so this one would definitely be good enough to make a back of it. So easy peasy. I will quilt it quickly. I will trim it a little bit around so it's not, you know, overlapping too much. Quilt it slightly with, you know, wavy lines, nothing, you know, particular there, and then I can kind of place my pockets where I want them, and trim it and put the backing on it. So that makes the process much easier, and let's see how it will look when it's finished. second panel is ready. So I only got 1, 2, 3 pockets which actually can be used to put something, which is, you know, with my children is more than enough. But again, you can decide whether you want more of those or not. So you will just need to cut the pockets a little bit bigger so you can folded fabric like I did here, so the pocket is, you know, free to be used. But the phone can go in this one, and the remote I've got for the TV in the living room is not much bigger than the phone, so that will work nice, and hopefully they will not start hiding things in the other 2 pockets. So while I was sewing it, I was also thinking, you know, all of those patches from the labels I've mentioned before, things like that. That will be a great way of using them as a third type of the cushion, but I won't be making the cushion out of it. I will do that other project as mentioned for the Southampton City farm, and there will be tutorials, so you have a look what I made from it as well. So now what we've got left is to put the backs on it, and I'm just using envelope style backing, and put the pillows and see how they look when they are in use. Very happy how they came out. So the one with the strips I will be probably donating straight away, because I've got a few of those I've made before, but the one with the pockets I will keep because it fits my remote. I did the basic envelope style of closing on those both of those cushions, and I've used some old curtains to back it up. If you would like a tutorial about how to make that back, please leave the comments below, and I'm happy to record one as well. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and you will find the use for some of those bits and pieces you cut out from the clothes, and you can reuse them this way. There is a second video in preparation for how else you can use those trims as well, so please keep watching. I would be grateful if you can subscribe, leave your thumbs up, and leave a comment. If you found any other way of using those bits and pieces, leave it in the comment as well, and maybe that's something I could make a tutorial about as well for others to enjoy and for them to share with everyone. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.